Advance Notice with your host, Parks and ynoT.
Well, we're back, and I'm alive this time around. Special shout out to Tony for taking care of the last episode, but I feel like we have a bit more to talk about this time around.
Yeah, for sure. Last time was a lot of fun. I haven't really had the opportunity to do like interview style kind of podcasting in a while. So that was a lot of fun. But with Parks back, it's kind of now just like bouncing off of each other. So Fragadelphia just happened for one. Neither of us were there. We're both losers who can't get to Philadelphia, I guess. But a lot happened.
It's almost as if a border crossing stopped me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if, perhaps. But
perhaps, maybe.
Were you actually planning on going?
I thought about it this year. I couldn't get the vacation days required for it.
Oh.
I was like, I couldn't. No, Matt was actually really pissed about that for me because he's like, yeah, you want to be a part of the Airbnb? And I'm like,
right.
I'd love to. Like, that sounds great. I'll sleep on the floor. I don't care.
Yeah.
I heard that fucking, what was his name? All in hurt his back as a result of sleeping on the floor.
Ooh.
So
Well, he's also like 30. So
he's an old man. He has back issues.
It's understandable. He probably had to like get like a blanket, which is actually just not a blanket at all. Just the couch cushions like over him. It's like a sleepover at your friend's house.
His blanket.
Yeah.
Well, aside from the actual tournament itself, which looked a lot of fun, I kept up with some of the content that Dust 2 put out. Shout out to all of those guys. They did a lot. There's that Dare interview that came out a few days ago. That was absolutely a delight to read. But yeah, Fragadelphia results side was very, very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of European teams popping out. That was like the main thing that everybody was talking about primarily. A British team in Blackhand. You have Apex, obviously, the international mixed lineup. Also making it to the final, I believe, was Big Academy, and that's probably where we're going to start and make our way down through. So kicking it off, we do have EGPA winning the whole thing over Europe. That was the big telltale thing that everybody was talking about, is that Europe's going to win Fragadelphia. Oh no. And lo and behold, EGPA make it to the final and win 2-0 or 2-1 rather.
Well, it was the funny thing of last year's Apex Rebels came in, which was the academy team for Apex. So they came in and they lost to Strife. So NA stays winning in NA. That's basically what we figured out at this point. And it's good to see from them, especially because it's been a while since we really got to see them play a full tournament under that EG banner. It's one of those things that because there's so many teams, the main one goes to the big stuff. And when these guys went to Melbourne, they didn't really have a chance to find their form or their groove, and they just had an early exit.
Yeah, and here they have, obviously, like I said, the 2-1 win, and it was like pretty tight affairs all the way through. I mean, obviously going to 3 maps, that's one thing. You take your own map pick and lose out on the next to go to a 3rd map, and the halves were relatively close. It was a 9-6 half for the 2nd and 3rd map, so obviously kind of neck and neck for that whole point, but it was kind of a blowout from then on out as we continued to go through those maps in the second halves. But either way, I mean, a 3-mapper, Sin, the German player on Big Academy who had 110 ADR nearly, he definitely put his best foot forward trying to win that one out there. But I mean, NA too strong, dude. What can I say?
Pone on the up, man.
Pone and Janji were like,
they were killing it. They were the only 2 players. Yeah, they were the only 2 players send up positive overall the whole series in terms of a plus minus.
Yeah.
For their side. But like, dude, you look at freaking Sin. He's plus 19, 110 ADR, as you said. Like, that is one that teams are going to be looking out for now, especially as the academy systems, like a lot of the academy systems now, a lot of those players are starting to get promoted. They're seeing that that's a big thing that they want to do, and so who knows? Maybe we'll see Sin on the main big roster. Maybe he'll be playing somewhere else on an international.
Yeah, I think definitely in the future, Sin might have a place in German Counter-Strike towards a higher echelon, perhaps like down the line if Big need a replacement for like if Faven gets picked up perhaps, or if they decide to shift around the roles a little bit and maybe move somebody else into the entry role and then replace Keto. That'd be a little bit more difficult, but I'd like to see this player get a little bit more action. Hyped, his teammate as well, AWP player with pretty good ratings, so that's something to talk about as well.
So there is a big elephant in the Fragadelphia room, I guess, when it comes to the EG sides. You have EGPA and EG Carpe Diem showing up. So I know we talked about it a bit before the start of the podcast, just to kind of see if we were on the same wavelength or not. We pretty much were.
Pretty much, yeah. It was just basically people were talking about it over Twitter. Obviously, it was a pretty big deal, and for some good reasons, some not. At the end of the day, what it came down to was, is EGPA and EGCD being in Fragadelphia a conflict of interest? The answer is yes. The answer is unequivocally yes. That is not to be debated, unfortunately. Sorry, Twitter. Have fun. But it is, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, it comes down to whether you are as lax about the situation as you would if you're somebody who's a little bit more, how do you say, explicit with rules as opposed to implicit, I guess. Like, you're a little bit more laxed.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the allowance of EG being able to bring those two teams there, being able to show off that they have these two rosters, I'm okay with it just because Fragadelphia is the biggest, like it's the biggest one we have in NA. It's something that it was going to be a kind of an issue if they were going to be forced to bring one team. I think just because the grassroots level of Fragadelphia, it's all right. Like, what happens if one EG team goes and qualifies from one Fragadelphia, and then another EG team goes and qualifies for another Fragadelphia? It causes a bit of a thing. So I don't know. I was okay with it, especially because it's Fragadelphia is just meant to be a fun NA celebration, and that's what we got, really.
It is, yeah. It's absolutely what we got, and I am on the same wavelength in most aspects. However, the feeling that I have about it is that if it presents an issue or the issues are potential, which there are, I think, a few more issues than people might realize on a surface level that might arise from it, then just don't. And I'd like to see both of these teams here, and I don't really see it being that big of a deal at the end of the day. But I'm on the side of probably shouldn't allow it. That's just how I stand. I probably personally, as a tournament organizer, wouldn't, but obviously both teams spoke to Fragadelphia. They spoke to Nerd Street. So they got into the tournament organizer and said, hey, look, this is what we want to do. Do you have a problem with this? If you do, we won't. And they said no. So at the end of the day, that's really what it all comes down to. Yeah. Honestly, that's really all it comes down to.
There you go. The conversation was had. The TO said they were fine with it. So
yeah, I can't really say a whole lot.
We can't really say much about that. Yeah. And then, of course, they didn't end up actually playing against each other. There was potential for it in the semifinals. Yes, very close. That honestly, that would have been really interesting because I think that would have been kind of okay. So who's playing the ECL match on Tuesday? If we win, we're gonna play. You guys have to sit this one out. It's our turn. That would have been kind of funny. Just like not so much I guess an internal bet between the two teams.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, if you win, you get the match. But like,
it also would have been cool to just see the struggle of the two different EG teams that aren't the main team fighting against one another, because they're gonna want to win. Like, obviously, like, this isn't gonna be like a conflict of interest in the sense of like throwing, because both teams are gonna try and beat the crap out of the other. So that wouldn't have been the case. So that would have been kind of fun, but it's all right. Things happen. Maybe another day.
Yeah, just beat Team 1 next time.
Yeah, just beat Team 1 next time.
Well, talking about Team 1 and all the other teams that kind of came through here, we had Squirrel Squad taking a 2 over Apex in the groups. I want to say it was actually in the last chance qualifier. I might be wrong. There was Fragadelphia was kind of
the groups.
It was in the groups. Okay, yeah, because Fragadelphia was broken up into it was like 2 different tournaments. The last chance qualifier where a bunch of teams showed up, including the European ones, because they had to qualify somehow. So you had to win the last chance qualifier to then qualify into the groups, which was the main thing on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I believe. Or was it just Saturday and Sunday? I don't know. There was some level, then you had to go into the groups. And Squirrel Squad, who's now actually going by Nouns, they've found org backing, which is really fucking cool. They did beat Apex 2-0, and then they were knocked down by Big Academy. And then I believe immediately after that, they lost to Apex as well. So they didn't actually qualify for playoffs.
Yeah, that is what happened. It's pretty upsetting. But 2-0 win over Apex, even still, on LAN, is an exciting prospect, because that team is relatively new. Shocks and Jail both making their way in, obviously, in the last couple of months. But even still, like, this is unheard of for these players in general to have taken a map off of an actually, like, set team of players from Europe, right? Let alone on LAN. I mean, you see, like, qualifying for an ESL event or something like that along those lines, it's not going to happen probably. But they come to our home turf, right? And it's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, talking about territory, the other teams that kind of came over and were making a bunch of jokes of how UKCS was better. You had 7 a.m. and whoever else it was. Blackhand, yeah. They came over, and there was a lot of smack that came around, and I guess they got
whopped.
Yeah, they got whopped. I was gonna put it in a better way, but there isn't really. Than just say UKCS flies home early.
Yeah.
On that jet stream.
Yeah, their South African counterparts, their British colonized friends over at ATK, they laid down the hurt. Mistham and Fady did a great job in that matchup to just send them home 2-0. I think that was the opener, and then in the elimination match, it was Davenport who sent them home 2-1, which is kind of a smack in the face if you are that Blackhand team to be like talking all that talk and then going home to a collegiate esports team.
Yeah, Davenport were showing up in force. I believe they actually took a bus altogether from the university over. Yeah, it was crazy. And like I don't know, I saw Koi all around the place. The shout out to the Beersadelphia stream. That was really Ryan's converted channel. For all the extracurricular content that we got as a result of that was so good. I remember I turned up day one, or I tuned in day one, and like I immediately tuned into them talking about how some people were showing up and like asking for the thing on ESEA, like the trophy, tied to your trophy case. We're at Fragadelphia 17, and like they pulled up his username, and it's like, you're banned. why? He's like, yeah, but I'm here. Like, can I get it? And he's like, yeah, okay, fine, sure. That was
there you go, dude.
Good. Yeah, here you go. Congratulations on make it to Frag. You're not gonna be able to play though, so have fun with that.
Yeah. All right. Well, unlucky, I guess, for the guy who's banned that he only gets to just have it on his account, but he's got it, I guess. But I wanted to just briefly talk about one more thing before we move on from Fragadelphia, and it's the fact that the European teams do come over, right? They do come over and try and play here and try and make a name for themselves. And as we said, Squirtle Squad 2-0 Apex on their own, and then Big Academy actually 2-1ing Apex to knock them out of the tournament in the semifinals is something that could be a little bit dangerous for a team like Apex. I know this is mostly like NA culture talk about teams, but in general, it's just kind of worrisome that team makes their way over here and is only able to make a semifinals finish. Personally, I think that's probably not acceptable for a team of this caliber, this expected level, right? So I hope to see that they move forwards with this 5 a little bit more confidently in the near future, and if not, maybe more roster changes down the road.
Yeah, there was a lot of good notes coming out from the European teams coming. One of those things was we got to see Shocks again. We got to see Shocks.
So cool, yeah.
It was so amazing. Like he's just like sitting in the background watching all these random NA advanced teams play.
Yeah,
like,
really.
That's so funny. Like this was his day basically. And like who else was here? He played. He's the Czechoslovakian player, I think.
Czechoslovakian.
Or maybe
player.
not Czechoslovakian.
Stiko?
Stiko, that's who it was. Sorry. He's from that region.
He's Slovakia. He's Slovakian.
Yeah, so that kind of area. I played too many history games. They
Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, close enough.
Well,
it was all
themselves Czechia now. Anyways,
it was all together once.
Yeah. No, but he was there too, and it's really nice to see him because it's been a while since he was on Cloud9, and I always loved him as a player. Like he just seems like a nice guy, you know, somebody you'd like to hang out with. So it was nice seeing those old players that used to be really good kind of come around and really get a chance to see NA grassroots culture. Like this is one of those things. Like Fragadelphia is the mecca of NACS when it comes to tier 2, when it comes to teams kind of on their way up. They really do cut their teeth in Fragadelphia and learn from that experience. And there was a lot of good things to be said about the EU teams coming over, and a lot of the EU teams saying, yeah, we were pleasantly surprised at, you know, how nice everyone was and how amazing the event overall was done. It goes to show Fragadelphia is in itself a really good event, and we're kind of spoiled for it.
Bring him back any day, any week, any month, any year. Hopefully we do get to see actually more European teams play in NA events that come through like Fragadelphia. That'd be pretty cool.
I'd love more NA events like Fragadelphia as well that like incentivize them coming over. Like that's I think that one of those things is like the prize pool was enough that it can justify you coming over. And for those smaller EU teams, that's kind of the point, right? You need to have some kind of price point for those expensive flights over and for all the lodgings and everything. There needs to be some kind of reason. Otherwise, they're just going to stay home and do their online betting tournaments from some random Polish vendor or something. I don't know.
Right. But no more Frag. We're done with Frag. It was great. I hope to be at the next one, but I wasn't at this one, so I can't really talk too much more about it. Neither of us, right? But we move into our nitty gritty, our cake, and we're gonna eat it too. It's advanced team talk.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we're at. I mean, Lucas put out a great thing. It's a shortened season, of course. So there's only 12 matches every single for this whole season, and we're pretty much at the end of them all now. There wasn't that many left, and I believe the last regular season day is Sunday, which is tomorrow because today is Saturday, the 18th. The 18th is the last day. You have to get all your matches done by then, and then you have to move on from there. So it's pretty much all of these teams kind of just finishing up. They're wrapping up their season, and then they're going to move forward from there. So we do right now have a sort of top 16. There's pretty much most of them have been locked in, as usually is around this time of year. But there are a few kind of hopefuls in that. So if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, we going down the list pretty much. I mean, we could just do that and talk about it at the end. Yeah, we start at the top of it. It's Infinity Esports 11-1. I wouldn't say unexpected. I wouldn't say expected. I would say that this is kind of just where they could have been, and they finally make that work, I guess. Like their level that they were looking to find in the last few seasons, they found in the regular season here in 42. So they'll probably move on into playoffs with some confidence about them. Reign 10-2, Eros 9-2, Red Wolves 9-2, Snakes Den 9-2. All of those teams with one more game left to play. But doesn't really do a whole lot for them other than seeding. They've already qualified for the playoffs no matter what. Orion, X13, same story. No game to play. They're 9-3. They've already gotten themselves secured. Team DNA 8-3. That's a team that could get a lot better seeding and absolutely secure themselves a spot in playoffs, because I'm not sure how it'll actually work out if they lose out on their matchup and how the head-to-heads will work if other teams start to win. Magic School Bus, FPL and Ellison, Villainous Union, New Threat, Lag Gaming, and Take Flight, all of which are 8-4 and are in weird territories for whether or not they will be able to stay. I think that almost everyone is in the limbo where they could be knocked out should certain things happen.
Yeah.
Limitless, however, have one more game left to be played. So winning their last match will bring them right up to where they are going to be very comfortable with the rest of the teams just above them, because the circumstances that happen below on the chart are like very few and far between. So it'll at least save them the 7-5 danger that early birds are in right now, because they're at the bottom of the list of the 16 and they have no more games left to be played. So with that being said, we've got 4 teams who are still in the running. So why don't you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we should backtrack a little bit and talk about Limitless, how they're currently sitting 7-4. That like you said, that does put them in precarious position. All the teams above them, though, in that standings that are 8-4, like they've done their season. So Limitless basically need to win out to really make sure that they get a spot in there. I'm not sure how the head-to-heads or the round win difference, or if it's
the deciding factors.
Like, what are the deciding factors? The list almost always changes, and it's kind of it's a tiered system, so they kind of look at different things, and depending on how far down they have to go, that's how nitty gritty it can get. But yeah, the teams that are still in the running, all of them have at least one match left to play. Vero Pro and Touchpoint are both currently sitting at 6-4. And they have 2 games left to play, both. So there is potential for them to go 8-4. And if they win those last 2 games, they are guaranteed to be over Limitless and Early Birds, just kind of based on the standings. So I know Vero Pro, after they actually had, I think it was Yuli, who was playing for CLG Red at one point, or earlier in the season was playing for CLG Red, and has since taken a step back with most of the compatriots when that roster swap happened over. She actually spent a bit of time with Vero Pro playing with them. And they did really well with her on the squad, which was really cool to see. But then her kind of substitution stint was over, and since then they've gone 6-4. I think they were 3-1, I want to say, with her or something like that. It was a really good start to the season for them, and so now sitting 6-4, they really do need to win those next 2 to keep themselves in that playoff picture, as well as Touchpoint, who have had that little bit of a rebuild. I know Gur is on that roster now. They're looking for the exact same thing. They want to get playoffs. Touchpoint is one of those teams that is always going for playoffs. That's their kind of modus operandi right there. Eclectic 6-5. They've looked decent, and they're hoping that they can at least give themselves a shot. They have to win the next match to even have that. And it kind of just depends on their record versus the likes of Early Birds versus the likes of Limitless. Because realistically, for Eclectic and Golden State Warriors, who are the other team kind of sitting in that playoff picture, they need to win their last one. And they're basically going to be fighting for the last 2 spots in playoffs. Like, there's not much room for error for them. So if Vero Pro and Touchpoint win and lose one, they're also part of that. It'll be at least 5 teams vying for 1 spot, maybe 2, depending on how Limitless goes.
And here's how it works now, with Touchpoint having 2 games left and Vero Pro having 2 games left. Vero Pro play Golden State Warriors. So if Vireo Pro hypothetically lose to Golden State Warriors and they go up 7-5, and Vireo Pro go 6-5, they have one more game, and if they win that, they're just sitting at 7-5, as are the Golden State Warriors, and that opens the doorway for a team like Touchpoint to win their last two and make their way in. In the adverse, however, Eternal, also in the running for playoffs right now, are going to be playing against Touchpoint. So that same scenario that I just described about Vireo Pro and Golden State Warriors is equally as applicable the other way around. So there's a lot of weird happenstances, I guess. I don't want to call them circumstances because it's a little different about how these are going to play out. But there are so many little things that matter in this in terms of who beats who specifically and then who loses against who specifically that Limitless is preying on the downfall of two teams right now and hoping that they win out their 8-4 game as well. Because if they win out their 8-4 game, the chances that they make it through to playoffs are very, very good, in my opinion.
Yeah, you want that 8. 8 doesn't guarantee you, but it gives you pretty much like a 75% chance you're in. Especially
now, yeah.
Yeah, especially right now. That 7-5 is we have a bit of a prayer, and we're gonna have at least one spot kind of open, unless Vireo Pro and Touchpoint both win their final two, and then you had to get 8 to get in. Like it is that fucking close, and it's one of those things that you sit there and you go, I don't know how it's gonna work, but because of the shortened season, it kind of throws off how many where you knew you needed to get. I believe it's always been kind of you need that 7 or 8, but it was never like you have to get 8. It was you could kind of skate by with 7 depending on how your record was within the season.
I don't remember. In the 14-game season, that was how it was, I think. And then in the 16-game seasons, I think it was like 8 was like your bare minimum.
Yeah, you need to go at least. You needed to go at least over 500. Like you had to get maybe 9 or 10, and you were fine. But yeah, it's one of those things of just like a 12-match season. There's so little room for error right off the hop. Like you can't leave it to last minute, and here we are sitting with like 6 teams leaving it last minute to try and qualify.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day is whether or not these last matchups are going to give them that little bit of extra boosts that they need to just secure themselves a comfortable way into playoffs without having to worry about any of the other circumstances. Because I'd also like to add 8-4 is the record of not only just Limitless after they win their game, but also 6 other teams. So they are also not entirely safe in their own regards because there's a chance that they get bumped out by one or both of Vireo Pro or Touchpoint if Limitless do win out on their match. So everyone in a little bit of a dangerous setting right now, I guess. Team DNA obviously 8-3 right now. They're hoping they win out their 9 game because that'll secure it for them. But
yeah, that 9 wins secures you for sure. Like you are
loving that.
You're
get that.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah, yes, indeed, ba-da-ba-ba-ba. They are loving it.
Yeah.
But who do you personally want in playoffs here? If you had to move 2 up from the bottom, if not even if you had to, but if you could, would you? And who would you switch?
You know what? I'd love Limitless to be in there. I think it's a good. I think it'd be quite a storyline for Stamina himself, good old Bobby, to have taken a step back from Strife after all the roster swapping and everything, go down to Advanced, sorry, get picked up by Limitless, and basically just say, yeah, you putting your faith in me was exactly what I needed, and here we are now. We're in playoffs. This was my plan the entire time. Now we have a decent shot of actually qualifying to get right back into ECL, and then it's almost as if he never left, right? Even with that Strife squad, he's basically, he'll have grabbed the players that he wanted to build a squad around, including some of those X13 guys that have always been so close, but yet so far from qualifying. It's one of those things of now is the time to show you putting your faith in me. I'm now going to do the same. I'm going to give you exactly what you want. And then I guess the other team, just from a story point, I'd love Touchpoint to actually get into the playoffs again as well. I love Gur as a guy. We had him on here last season, in season 1. We had him on for an interview. Such a nice man, and I know that squad has been through so much, and they almost always they'd reach the playoffs and then they'd get out in the first round.
Right?
They just it feels like it's time for them to become Victorum, essentially, where like they will make playoffs and hopefully they can go on a bit of run. They've been around for so long. I want the success for them.
Yeah, I personally don't really know a whole lot about one of these teams, and that's Magic School Bus. So if I had to do something to this current standing of teams, I would probably move Magic School Bus out because I know that I can't really, with early birds being 7-5, they're going to be bumped out anyway if anybody else wins over them. But if I could, I'd probably like to bump out Magic School Bus for Touchpoint, and that's really it. That's the only team that I don't really know anything about. That's the only reason why I say that. I don't have anything against them. It's not like they're bad players. I don't think they don't deserve their place. I just don't know them as well as I do all the other teams that are in right now. But other than that, I think that the way that it's standing right now is honestly perfectly fine. I'd do this 16-team setup as it is, and Touchpoint is the only one that I would like to see participate in the playoffs. So I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Truck Lovers himself is starting to gain a little bit of notoriety, and that Magic School Bus squad. They've always been a little bit, they've always been around, kind of thing.
I know Cypress. That's the only player that I actually am familiar with.
They're there, but like nobody really knows much about them as a squad, which is so crazy considering like they have been a playoff team. I think they've been a playoff team at least for 2 seasons, maybe 3 now, which is crazy. I believe they actually played Philadelphia Liberty last time around in the playoffs, which is always a funny storyline when predictions come around and people get upset.
Oh, great.
Can't wait, dude. Can't wait for predictions. Can't wait for our
wait for summer.
Yeah, can't wait for our seasonal crowning of best player and all that stuff.
Yes.
I love that show so much. Even if I can't be a part of it, I love just the show.
That is very fun. I like that a lot as well. Because I usually do all the award hunting, so it's fun. I like doing it.
You spend a day just like sitting there going, "Oh, stats.
Ooh, who's gonna be the MVP? Who can I say is top 3?" And they'll be like, "Oh no, why wasn't I in there?" Just kidding. I love you all.
See my clutch on Dust 2 now.
Did you see my clutch on Dust 2? Why am I not the MVP of LCA? That's going to be the twist this season, is that I am the MVP for this season at LCA, guys.
That's how you discredit everything Advanced Note stands for.
Exactly.
Anyways,
we're done with Advanced Talk.
We're done with Advanced Talk,
easy.
Honestly. Yeah, well, it wasn't swift or easy. It's always
kind of difficult, actually. It's so difficult.
It's a nitty-gritty thing where you always kind of have to sit there and wait and make sure that nobody's going to be upset by you saying something wrong, which always happens because
of course.
Advanced as a league is just literal chaos, which we love, but at the same time is so fucking confusing. I guess we got the last point of it today. Big news coming out from Group B in ESL Pro League.
Group C.
Group C? Oops. It's Group C, guys. I swear. Complexity. They took that player break to heart, and they've come back, and they have come swinging.
Yeah, Hauser, new addition. I can't say anything really bad about him necessarily. I don't think he's been like some insane player for them so far. I think he's been doing his job and certainly doing it better than Junior was for them in his I was going to say in his role, but what I mean is in what they need from an AWPer in this team. I think Hauser is doing a much better job with that. And they have shown the results already. They went from not beating a singular team in Europe at all on LAN to now having 2 victories over European teams on LAN in this one event alone. 2-1 over Astralis, 2-0 over Heat, and they're currently now playing against Mouse Sports after their 2-0 loss to Heroic. So, I mean, we can kind of just briefly talk about each matchup statistics, and I watched a little bit of it. So, like, just on face value, when you look at these match pages, Parks, what do you think?
Listen, I actually end up watching like Vlado part on YouTube. He does like
awesome
Spark Notes, essentially the highlights of the matches. Yeah. I'm gonna throw Spark Notes out there because that's what got me through.
That's
college.
Good.
No, honestly, when I watched the Astralis game, it definitely felt like Astralis had command in the early going, and something just kind of turned, and all of a sudden, Complexity, they've battled back. What was it? 3 overtimes on Nuke is what took them to win that map, and then right after that, they fought hard on Dust 2, but it always kind of seemed like they were gonna win it, and that kind of a win is just a confidence win. And it gets you kind of it gets you in a really good mindset because all of a sudden it's like, okay, yes, this is what we wanted. This was the vision of Complexity, was being able to bring it and potentially win against these upper teams in EU.
Top 4 Not anymore, I guess. I don't know what they're going to look like after this event is done.
If complexity beats you, you go down at least 100 points.
Yeah, at least 100 points. And honestly, you were saying it very commanding from Astralis right out the gate. They won map number 1 on Inferno. It was a 16-9 victory. They move on to Nuke, and then I thought that Astralis had it in the bag. It was a 10-5 half on their CT side. They obviously, or rather, a 9-6 half on their T side, sorry, which is like a ridiculous scoreline to have if you're Astralis, because their CT sides are better on the map anyway, especially when Farlig actually has an opportunity to start like playing the game. Yeah. So I thought it was really, really close in the sense that Astralis probably should have closed that out 2-0. Like I would say almost even definitely should have closed that out to 2-0, but then didn't. So then why would you not take advantage of that if you're Complexity? You get the ball rolling on your T side nuke early. You just want to run away with that, win the map, and then on to map 3, you've already have everything that was difficult about this series is already behind you, basically. Like that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's crazy to think of like it's not even just like how they did it, it's the way they did it. It was okay, we're down now on our going on to our T side of nuke, and I don't know, the mental fortitude needed to just calmly say, okay, we're gonna do that. There was actually a lot of jokes going around on Twitter of how JT was more of a fragging IGL than Glaive was. That's not true into this match. No. Overall, he was a -23. He also got fewer kills overall, but his impact was felt differently than Glaive. Glaive kind of just felt like more if he was there, he did get those kills, but like they weren't always huge. Whereas JT gets a kill, you remember that kill.
Feel that kill,
you feel it. That really energized the rest of the team. So even if statistically Complexity on the overall plus minus wasn't the best, like
right, -23 for JT. Actually,
you can't have a team of Blame Fs. Like there is only one Blame F who can go +22 and his team still loses. Like Blame F has turned into what Nico was on the old Mouse. Like that's where we're at with him on Astralis, is he needs support and he's kind of getting it, but it just, I don't know. There was something inherently
Nix and Farlig I constantly feel like I've got to look at, man. And it's unfortunate because Farlig I see do really well on Nuke all the time, but every other map he seems to go silent. And I can't have that happening. Like as a in-game leader, if I see my Opper struggling to find any form of success on any map that isn't one, you gotta kind of weigh your options, and they are weighing them. They've already started to talk to Device supposedly with NIP. They've already offered them the bid, so that's kind of nuts. I wonder how that will turn out. I hope that they actually get him, but
it's
because I want to see Device. I need Device.
That whole Astralis saga of just the team breaking up and like the individual parts. The band broke up, and the individual parts have not looked as good since. Like that was. The Astralis era was truly them all hitting their peaks at the same time and kind of pushing through as that. Because I haven't seen much of Vitality recently, but I don't imagine that Magisk and Dupree are doing it phenomenally well over there. Because that's the Zywoo show.
Magic's is actually been like really good in my opinion. I mean, this is my own opinion. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I think that ever since joining this team, Magisk has been doing a really good job. Dupree is honestly super underwhelming. That much I will say. But I think Magisk as an anchor player, typically as a player who fills in gaps and plays like solo roles a lot around the map on T side and takes like the lesser roles on CT side, he's putting up like 1.05 numbers against like top 20, 30 teams in big games. Big games. But I was gonna say big games, like big games, but I couldn't say it.
Big gaming.
Like yes, BIG.
Berlin
the clan.
Gaming.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's one of those things of now that the band has broken up, you brought in the new pieces. Some of those new pieces
ever be the same?
Will they ever be the same? I don't think so. Like I don't know anymore. The clutch minister of old is gone. Zapix is definitely.
He was honestly the linchpin for that too, honestly.
Yeah, there was a lot riding on kind of how he played with them, and as of recently, like it's just not gone his way at all. So that's unfortunate. We're definitely seeing a decline in Astralis, and they're kind of starting their rebuild of replacements. So, I guess we get to keep an eye on that. Yeah, we get to keep Fleas. We got to keep an eye on them kind of going forward. But like I said, we got to get back to Complexity on this because they did win over Heat.
That was a 2-0 that honestly I didn't really like doubt off the get-go. Like if there
Yeah.
was a team that they were going to beat on LAN, I definitely didn't not think it was going to be Heat. Like I was pretty confident in the fact that they were in the running for that, and they did it. I wouldn't say this is like an upset per se, honestly. I think this is actually honestly pretty straightforward, a win that they should be getting on LAN after this long with this 4. And Heat's not a bad team by any stretch either. I think that just getting Jax into this team into more star roles, I guess, so to speak, playing in a more comfortable setting for him individually, it's going to be difficult for them to try and adjust to that after he's not done that for so long. And Hauser only has to just go 1-for-1 with an Opera that is, no offense, individually worse than he was. So it's kind of just easy for Complexity to be like, all right, let's just play our game and try and win out individually.
Yeah, this, in a weird way, this match feels very like a Fragadelphia match. Like an EU team came over and Complexity are there just kind of in the finals waiting for them. It's
like flag. Yeah, this is Fragadelphia 2023 finals.
It's Fragadelphia, but it's in EU. It didn't feel like it was an old player coming in, and Body was there as well for
Body.
How it's been a while since he's kind of been around the upper echelon of CS in terms of recognizability, I guess. I don't know any of the other 3 French players. That's kind of a thing I gotta wait on for them. But yeah, it's
Body's been around since like 2016, dude. He's
yeah,
been around for a minute.
Body's been around. He's been kind of working
longer,
the lower.
but
He's been around working the lower French scene though. He's been trying to build players up, which is really nice to see.
Somebody's got to do it. Everyone else left.
I was gonna say somebody's got to do it, and there's no, as far as I can tell, there's no full French team anymore because Vitality is now partially from Denmark, and G2 has gone international. So
Falcons also.
Yeah, it's
those 2. The big 2. And Amanek, actually, thank God Amanek did it too. He went to LDLC.
There you go, right? The trickle down is happening, and I think French CS will be better as a result of it. But for now, Complexity will stay on top for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. They lost 2-0 to Heroic, though. That's like, come on, that was kind of expected. They put up a decent fight, though.
Yeah, I mean, Heroic's one of those squads that it's going to be very, very difficult to beat them because they always, like, Cadian is just always such an X factor when it comes to, I'm just going to 1v5 clutch, and there's nothing you can do about it. He's been in NA long enough where just, like, he knows what to do.
Yeah,
you just
Heroic's like a stable top 10 capable team. So like that's what you're kind of fighting up against no matter what at the end of the day. So it's all right. We weren't expecting them to win.
And then as of right now, Complexity are currently facing off against Mouse.
Yeah, they won map 2. They lost map 1 of Overpass.
Do you want to know the score currently?
You can say it. I see it as well.
Yeah, it is 12-6 for Mouse on Inferno, and they switched to their CT side. So
gotta be 12-7.
About to be 12-7. Yes, I'm glad we're kind of getting that way. And listen, we've seen Complexity rally back from these score lines, when specifically on Nuke against Astralis, like we mentioned. It's gonna take a lot. I'm very hopeful because I think if they win this, it pretty much gives them it almost certainly gives them a spot in playoffs, which is kind of the goal.
It guarantees it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot I forget who it is on Twitter who was mentioning it. Mr. Spreadsheet, I think he's calling himself now. Has his predictions all set up and everything. It's like the winning condition needed for Complexity was like another match or something, and if that happens, they secure a spot regardless of what happens, just because of how well they've played, which is ultimately amazing.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I think that it's going to be awesome to have a little bit more North American representation in playoffs if we actually get to that point, because obviously we've got Twist and FaZe. He's locked in already as is. Liquid more than surely going to make it to the playoffs in Group D. I can only assume against teams like Evil Geniuses, Eternal Fire, Furia, Movistar Riders. I put them above those teams every day of the week.
Yeah. How many teams qualify per group?
3.
I think it's 3. Okay, yes. So I'd say it's probably going to be Liquid, Furia, and
Cloud9 is also there.
Yeah, so. Cloud9. I think those will be the 3. And then EG, because it's the main roster, like that's more time to get Nealon comfortable, to get Hex some games in. And Movistar Riders
Fire has growing pains also.
And Movistar Riders is good, but do they have that kind of next level to beat the upper 3 teams? I don't think so. They've been around. Like they've gone to they've went to DreamHack Valencia. They were, they've been around to some events, but it's
no Sun Pius, no win.
Yeah, it's not exactly going to be in their favor.
Yeah, no. I hope to see them do a little bit better in the near future. But honestly, there was kind of a miracle run that they had going on anyway, because all their players were hitting strides, and obviously Sun Pius is just so friggin' nuts that it helps to have a player like that who can just be your game turner at any point. So, yeah, not really too hopeful for them moving into the future at this level, but I don't think they'll go away. So
No.
hopefully this Martinez guy can be another farm player that maybe international lineups look at, perhaps. Maybe that's where we can look at this.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to think about EU, where it's just like, oh, well, you don't fit on your national roster, so you just get to go
Yeah.
play internationally with these
Yeah,
4 other
hopefully.
fraggers, and something might happen about it, like Gamers Club or whatever it was,
Yeah.
Gamer Fest, whatever it was years ago, where I think Wolfie played in that. The American player Wolfie, he was actually a part of it and won. I feel like, and
Oh, right.
that roster
Gamers.
got like,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, a long time ago. Like that was basically the whole project, was we're gonna take like, what was it, like 12 Nordic players or 12 like Northern European players, and we're just gonna have them in a gamer house together, and then every single day they're gonna play against each
It's
other.
like the reality TV
Yeah,
show
it was a
thing.
reality TV show that went like all day
It was
long.
Gamers with a Z.
Yeah, gamers. It was such a weird
Brawlin
thing.
played in that. Do you know
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
Brawlin. There's a few.
HNS,
Yeah,
Limpone, JW's younger brother.
Yep, all these
Queenix.
guys. A bunch of these guys that like they slowly made their way up since, but like a good few of them got their start through gamers, which is so weird. And I know gamers wanted to do like an NA one, where that would have just been such a mess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know where Brawlin initially came from, but I remember that he stood in for Fnatic at WESG or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, slightly after Gamers had ended. So that was really cool. That's where he came right after that.
Yeah, I want to say it was Flom, one of the Flom streams I was watching, where he was like streaming with Chris J, or not Chris J, sorry, Get Right. I was gonna say Chris because that's his name.
Right.
Yeah, he was streaming. He was I know. We were gonna stream. He was streaming with Chris with Get Right, and he mentioned, like, they mentioned, like, somebody asked, like, where do all these Swedish players come from? Like, where is the farm that we keep finding, that they find like the Rezes, they find the Drakens, the Disco Dopplins, and it was basically just like the Swedish tier 2 and tier 3 scene is very kind of secretive and very kind of closed just to Swedish players. And so all the Swedish players know of each other, kind of thing, because it's a very small community, but you don't really see many of them until all of a sudden they're on like NIP or they're on Fnatic, because those teams keep an eye on the Swedish team. They have the ins basically because they have the players.
There are actually a ridiculous amount of tier 2 tournaments in Sweden that like actually like give prize pool money to teams who just qualify through open weekly qualifiers and ladders. I don't know if you've ever heard the Yogi Yali Cup.
No, I haven't.
But that is an older cup that used to just go, again, weekly, monthly, and players would just go through open qualifiers and play in now. And the equivalent of that right now in the entirety of now Scandinavia is Frag League. That is another C tier, I guess you would call it, division ladder, where they just go in through open qualifiers. They're just random Swedish players who make their names, and usually they mix in with other players who are like a little bit more well known also. Because they're obviously, like you said, very tight knit as a community.
Yeah.
And dude, like that's where you need to look if you are a Swedish organization, a Finnish organization, or a Danish and or Norwegian organization.
And I mean, I guess to kind of show the NA side of that, we have EGL Premier now, which is kind of starting to do that side, which is good. Like that's literally what you need. You need tournaments going on besides just not Impact, just besides like regular league play to add extra games, to add extra recognition, potentially more prize pool money into the scene. That's all what we need. And so EGL doing that is awesome. Yeah, and we're hoping for more. I don't know. Are we gonna bring back Sivo? Like,
oh God, I hope not. Not Sivo. Something else. Anything else.
Yeah. No, for sure. Other than that, though, I think we're good for right now.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot. It seems like a lot in a week, but
really not.
It really wasn't. There was Frag. The results came through Frag. And other than that, like, league play is finishing up. I mean, ECL is kind of starting to get into full swing. Davenport won their first series in ECL over Mythic, so that's really cool.
Yeah. First collegiate team ever to do it.
First collegiate team ever to get into the Premier level and win. I know. I want to say it was. I want to say it was RMU that was really close a while ago. They had like Spermy and a bunch of other like basically premier level players that were just kind of on a collegiate team together for fun. They made it to advanced, and then a bunch of them graduated.
And they're like, "Damn it, we came so close.
We're so close." Yeah, I remember they actually did like a pre-show, a pre-match against at IAM Chicago. It was like RNU versus another team. I can't wait for Davenport to do that. Could you imagine like IAM Chicago comes back and you have Davenport going up against like, I don't know, another top MIT or not MIT, MTU.
Right.
Like you guys are like random 2 collegiate teams, but like Davenport is one of them.
That'd be
just
funny.
Because they're the best team in the air. That'd be crazy, man.
That would be crazy.
That would be something for sure. But yeah, that's it. I mean, any shoutouts? What do you got for
nothing.
me? You got nothing?
I got a new YouTube video coming out in the next couple of weeks now as a preview for the major to come up. It's going to be basically all the roster changes that have happened from all the teams who are participating in the last major, how I grade them and how they'll be moving forward, as well as where they are now, whether or not they qualified for the major and whether or not they are going to do well, in my opinion. That's just all I have to plug for myself.
I'll definitely watch that.
No, cool. Thank
I
you.
guess as for myself, I mean, I've got freezetime.ca is all of a sudden a thing. I do try and embed our episodes of Advanced Notice on there so that they're easily viewable from the website as well. I've got to clear up the backlog a bit. I left the last 3 episodes off, so I gotta put those on. But yeah, other than that, check it out. I've started doing weekly articles on ESL Impact's NA division, just recapping the results and kind of making sure that people keep up with it. I know this week was quite a bit of a banger because we had not 1 but 2 teams requiring a substitute to play. And one of those is because a player got removed, and the other one was because one of the players just like didn't show up. So that's always fun times. But yeah, that's really it for myself and from Tony, I guess. So thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, Jay.
And thank you, Jay.
Also,
Big shout out to Jay coming in when his girlfriend is sitting like right beside him, wondering what the hell he's doing with his Saturday. We love it. He's gonna hate me for saying that.
Yeah.
But he can cut it out if he wants to. I guess.
No, he can't.
He can't. It's part of the episode. It's not a mess up. It's a part of the episode. So
yeah,
we're gonna head out of here for now, though. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you in a few weeks.